Well, looks like we have a small group here, and so hopefully we can have some good conversation. Thank you so very much for joining us, and please feel free to use the chat or use the QA for questions, comments, or anything you'd like to share. My name is Ling Lipsmeyer. I'm a professor of learning sciences and technologies at Southern Methodist University. I was at University of North Texas with Mark last year, the year before. So I will. So we're here also actually with Xiao, Ting Xiao. She actually unfortunately won't be able to join us today, and I will invite Mark to say a few words about himself, and then we'll proceed.
Okay. Yeah, I'm happy to be here to talk to everyone about what's really been a wonderful experience the past decade in teaching this, AI summer research program. You'll see the evolution of it over two different universities, many, like, about 10 faculty involved each summer. Just a really wonderful experience, and it's a little bit bigger than some other summer programs that I've been exposed to and aware of, and so I just thought it would be helpful to for Ting, who couldn't be here today, and Ting and myself, and with Lynn here to discuss this program that we have. So I'm an associate professor of computer science and engineering at University of North Texas. My research is on machine learning for wearable devices to help in clinical settings. I have, funded work with, 4 different hospital systems in that area. But what I'm really interested in today is putting on the educator hat. I'm an associate chair for graduate studies in computer science and engineering at UNT, where we actually went from 400 grad students when I started about 2 years ago to now 2,800 graduate students. So a lot of education going on, and we're also handling the AI wave that's occurring now. This discussion here about the AI summer program actually predates all of that. It's been a decade, and it's been something that's been constant, even moving universities. So again, I'm happy. Both Ting, Xiao, and myself have been, co-teaching this AI summer program in various forms consistently every summer, even through the heart of COVID, and just happy to share it all with you here today. And so also just, with a wonderful connection here with Lynn, had a wonderful experience working with her on this edited book, Bridging Human Intelligence and Artificial Intelligence. Actually, this book and the summer program don't just share the fact that they're AI. One of the summer efforts involved a large number, basically students from that summer program were brought in to work with PhD students and faculty in order to move forward this book effort through a peer-reviewed meeting every week system. And so it's just a wonderful experience where it wasn't just requesting chapters from people, but we actually work directly in moving things forward. And I think you get that kind of buy-in from students when you have a really intense summer. This effort involving them was actually during the school semester, but when you really get to know them, it's easier to bring them together for efforts like this. So again, I just wanted to thank Lynn here for all the work that the ability to jump in on this effort and work with those students with her. So and Lynn, do you want to add anything about this book effort?
Well, sure. Yeah, this as Mark mentioned, this is interdisciplinary, multidisciplinary effort. And we always talk about sort of apprenticeship and about, people of different, walks of life, different age groups working together. So Mark was just amazing, able to get the high school's age students and graduate students and faculty to co-author this chapters together. We actually covered, as you could see, the chapters really covered some very good cutting edge areas of AI in the book. And also it's really not just, writing the chapters, it's really working intensively, having a lot of discussions when, we were putting this book together. So it was really a wonderful experience for me as well. But for today's actually conversation, we put a plug for this book. Some of the students are authors for this book, but the shift is really going to be, the focus is going to be on the summer program, which I'm going to ask Mark to take on from here.
Yep. Yeah. And so, yeah, what we'll do for the next 10 minutes before we have a Q&A panel style discussion is it's just helpful to give you a sense of how the program was run. I think that we'll do an overview here very quickly. If anyone is thinking of implementing something like this long term, if you don't ask questions over the Whova app, feel free to send emails. There's always details that you just can't get into in 10 minutes. If you want to read more, we have summaries of everything, every single summer at this website that we can put onto the chat. And of course, you can see here in the recordings. And so let's go on with the description here. So yeah, this actually started with actually just a very seed funding from Brazilian scientific mobility program to the individual students in 2015. And we decided to bring them together for a coherent summer program, not all separate in their separate labs, but actually interacting with each other. And it snowballed in a sense since then to, and this was 2022, where also just for note, 2015 to 2019 was at Loyola University of Chicago, where we were at before. And then we ended up moving to University of North Texas. And you see how, and that, of course, COVID hit. This entire 2020 research program was over Zoom. And then the others ended up eventually coming back to in person. So yeah, it actually started small and now it's grown to a bit of a beast. We have approximately 60 students that we expect to maintain regularly. We don't really want to grow it beyond that. And then faculty advisors on the order of 10, and grad and postdoc advisors for that more hands-on assistance with projects as they're distributed throughout. And again, by the numbers, although really the numbers can be deceptive if we're just going for those. But yeah, I mean, basically the way we run it, we basically plateau at about 60, even though we get more interested. And I wouldn't do any more than 20 projects with the resources we're talking about here. But 10 participating faculty is wonderful to have all the different perspectives and ideas. So features of this program, instead of just being one contiguous summer slog, we actually do 2 one-month intensive periods where they have to be present during the full attendance part of the program. Some summers, that's just 3 hours, and then they're expected to have their own time in the hours on the other portion of the day. Some attendance in the program are actually funded by things such as the National Science Foundation, our research experience for undergrads might fund someone for 40 hours a week, and we manage that so that they can still work with students that may only participate in mornings or afternoons. So again, there's a lot of detailed work going on for multiple programs to coordinate. But we found having very intensive periods with a large break in between has been a big benefit. They actually, everyone engages socially a little bit more. It's easier to have fun events in that middle period. And again, it works for certain efforts where, for example, course credit, you can't engage someone intensely um, for two months, but you can engage them intensely for one and have it count for a course. And so again, we found two 1 month intense periods to be very helpful. We do project selection on the first day. So we don't try we make it easier historically during the semester. We work with faculty to get their project titles, their descriptions, data sets. We go back and forth with them to make sure that they have a bit of a, hit the ground running first day homework assignment, just to get them going on a project effort, something very clear to do the first day. So it's a very curated project list, but there's always more projects on that list than students can choose, so that they don't choose the ones they don't want to do. So we never guarantee someone, or very rarely guarantee someone the project will be selected. But we end up having enough options for the students to where they always choose something that's, it's not their last choice. We have daily huddles and roundups. Usually after the beginning, it's just one a day, just where everyone comes together very briefly, a minute or two, just describing where they're at, trials and tribulations. And for project assistance, we have regular project group meetings with the program coordinator, either myself or Ting Xiao. Meetings with faculty and grad student advisors on the particulars of the project, although Ting and myself as coordinators are well aware of efforts and can help move on a daily basis. Multiple rounds of feedback on posters and project pitches. So they have peer evaluations of posters, and then they have to pass it through in a few iterations through either Ting or myself. And then project pitches. This is great, by the way. Have them give a 2-minute description that they would be pitching to someone, and make them do it over and over again until it's polished. They enjoy doing that. That's more fun than the posters to do. But we've actually found it very beneficial for them to be able to curate what they want to say in a short time. And of course, there's documentation efforts. All of the intentions here are projects don't end when the summer ends. Personal enrichment that we add is ever since 2015 when we started this, one-on-one meetings for all the students in the program. And the advice is typically, it's fun. It's actually, you start with, what do you want to do with your life? And that's okay. So sometimes that can actually take a student off guard a little bit, like, okay, great. Do I need to have that conversation today? But what you'll find is, most, it's almost like you're just chatting through someone's resume and helping them out. But there's always a few every summer where that conversation actually makes a substantial difference. It's surprising how often people aren't asked, what do you want to do with your life? What do you want to do with AI? What do you want to do with the summer program? And just asking that question and really being there to listen and talk is just a wonderful thing. Again, if you throw this into your summer program, just be sure to understand that most of them aren't going to be earth-shattering, groundbreaking, but you'll always, when you have tens of students, you'll always have that one or two that'll come back to you next year or the year after to tell you, they took a summer program experience somewhere else, and it was caused by a conversation. So we also have seminars and discussions. You can do a mix of the best presentations from class days, or just very interesting topics that are just the sort of softer side of doing research. And end of program events. We have an end event every intense month, and then we have a big one at the very end. So everyone shows off their posters, it's a poster session. To give you an idea of the way it's organized in terms of people, We have graduate students, so we actually have MS and AI students, MS and computer science students, and then other graduate students. We have undergraduates that might be a part of a National Science Foundation REU supported effort. So these students will be supported 40 hours a week, funded. But then we have some students that are also undergraduates that are taking things for course credit. And then the advising team is typically PhD students who want their projects to move forward and could use some assistance and enthusiasm, and potential, future collaborators. And then faculty advisors, who are the ones who initially come with the projects, with the data, and help meet with them. Sometimes on a every few days basis, sometimes, once every 2 weeks, if they have a good grad student advisor that can move things along with them. And like we said, it's an intense schedule. We break it down into blocks. Now we've settled on 20-minute segments throughout the day, and they have to be present and working. They don't have to go to all the different events, but they know that something's always happening. And a number of the events are, if it's if it's something they can do instead of working on their project and they find it interesting, they can join in. We've done this summer program where it started at 8 a.m. and it ended at 4 p.m. With a break for lunch, but never again. So we actually do it intensively like this for half a day, and then the other half, give them a breather, let them work at their own pace. And yeah, so this is just a picture of the group, actually a portion of the group, one of the intense periods, because sometimes there's some mixing between the intense periods. Just a wonderful group of students to work with. Again, a mix of undergraduates, graduates, and some high school age undergraduates as well. And they produce wonderful pitches of their projects, a recording of their well-curated 2 minutes. It's just wonderful to hear one after the other. And they have, real quality posters, because again, they go through peer review with themselves, and then they have to pass inspection from one of the coordinators, often working with their advisors too, to get another look. So, well-curated posters afterwards. Those are presented internally. Some summers we actually coordinate with locations like a tech incubator to show those. So when we were in Chicago, we did this tech incubator 1871. Other times it's just internal, with the intention, of course, for all of these projects to move beyond just the summer. So that's it with my slides. So I'm going to go ahead and stop that. And so, yeah, I'm happy to, because again, I think a lot of this is about the details of how to run it and the details of keeping it going, and honestly, why you would do something like this if you're not getting paid a lot for it. So, I mean, before I sort of hand it off, let me just say one thing. The book discussion that we had before, you might have heard that and you might have thought, well, that's different. Like they're just plugging a book before the summer program chat. But honestly, that is one of the reasons why we do the summer program, is you build a rapport with students, and you can, when you say, hey, there's this wonderful opportunity, let's come together, meet with us once a week. These students are really busy. They're working on undergrad programs, working pretty hard, doing what they do. To have them meet regularly, meet with a lab, meet with people they haven't met before, and to work intensely, get their writing critiqued repeatedly, it's effortful. But if you make those connections over the summer, in 20-minute segments for hours, you can really build a connection that keeps moving. So yeah, I'm just happy to answer any questions or chat about this for the rest of the time.
So while we wait for some questions, Mark, I have a question for you. So you
Okay.
said, if you're not getting paid, why are you doing it? So why are you doing it, Mark?
Okay. We are getting paid because we are for the National Science Foundation REUs that are tied into this. So 10 of the students in a program that I'm a co-principal investigator on, and 10 of the students where Ting Xiao is actually the principal investigator on. But I don't know what her exact number is, but I get zero point 0.1 months of salary. So technically there's a little bit of pay. But honestly, like a lot of it is the book is just an example. I mean, you build a rapport with these students. You very how do I say this? Uh it is one of the best ways of finding out who are good researchers naturally. Like, everyone, you got to build them up a little bit to make them good. So, I mean, I think most of them, if they really get the feel for it, with time and attention and effort, they can contribute. But some of them, they walk in and they're very expressive. They can code. They just understand what they need to understand. And honestly, I've seen them ranging from high school age undergraduates that are here in the special TAMS program, all the way up to, near graduating master's students. And it's just in a program like this, they shine. And so that's one big advantage is just connecting with students that you might bring into your lab, or you might push them if they're not going to work with you or work with the summer program projects that were pre-selected that they did a summer with. You can actually, what I do and what Ting and I do at the end is we actually take the top performers, the ones where not just from our perspective, but also from the perspective of the other students, who really move the projects forward. And we basically, I wouldn't say aggressively, well, maybe aggressively, try to connect them with faculty for research.
Right. So how do I mean, you've done this for over 10 years. Obviously, you figure out some way to sustain it. But I'm just thinking it is a lot of hard work. Any advice on, sort of other ways of sustaining such effort or, scaling such effort?
Yeah. So I mean, there's definitely from the coordinators so from the faculty members' perspective, where they give projects. By the way, this is a real boon. This is wonderful because you can put a project idea and some data out there, and you have coordinators to help with the day-to-day operations and motivations and sort of soft skills of helping people move forward. Wonderful for faculty advisors who are throwing their projects out there, for us to curate and have them pick among. So that's not difficult. You can definitely get people involved. AI is hot. It's even easier because of that. Um, uh, for the coordinators, for Ting and I, yeah, I think one thing that sustains us is also we can get some credit where and support for students by plugging into these other programs. The Brazilian Scientific Mobility Program, when it was there, that was just for the undergrads, but we actually worked with the Brazilian students that could get the funding support, so they were there to do research to help on projects. So that was wonderful. But later on, we found that we can apply for, National Science Foundation research experience for undergraduates, support to get some top undergraduates from across the country to join this program. And that's a shot in the arm in terms of, wonderful skills and excitement from across the country, people coming into our program. We also have here at UNT, there's the Texas Academy of Math and Science. It's a program for high school age students to become undergraduates to earn college credit at University of North Texas. When we moved here, we didn't even know that was a thing. And we were able to reach out and realize those students can be funded for 10 weeks through their own program. And so you have, approximately 10 of those students, approximately with these two different NSF programs, 20 more students. So that's 30 students with funding support that, I mean, a lot of them jump at. Um, the additional 30, what we found both at Loyola, University of Chicago, when we did this there, and also at University of North Texas, course credit. Like we find appropriate courses that fit with the idea that this is not a traditional didactic lecture, but if there are appropriate research courses that they can plug into, we assure with advisors that they're not wasting their time, like it is a credit that helps to the degree. I would also say, I mean, I guess the one last piece of sustaining this from a personnel point of view or a student interest point of view, there are a few which just strictly volunteer, but in my experience, the best things are to find something that really bites someone, gets them interested and engaged so that it's not just a volunteer effort that may just peter out over time. And so, but it's interesting, like, you say, I mean, it has been about a decade now, and one of the challenges is looking at the different funding opportunities and seeing if we can latch on to those or apply to those. And we're not sure if they're going to happen. We still run the summer program regardless. Okay. And the advantage there is that it's a train. It keeps on moving. We know it's going to happen. Students know it's going to happen. All, the Texas Academy of Math and Science, our collaborators know that we're going to be there for all of this to move forward. So it almost becomes self-sustaining because people in the community know we do this now. And that's a huge advantage because you're not creating something new. You're just looking at your calendar for what you said you were going to do next year and you just do it. And it's just,
Right.
yeah, it works. So
Right.
long-winded answer. Sorry, Lynn.
Yeah, I mean, you've definitely got a model, this pipeline model, sort of almost like, the graduate students mentoring undergraduates, mentoring high school, and you have faculty involved. So I think that model itself is is so important. I don't know if I don't see other questions, but I have another question. I remember I tried from the faculty's perspective. You've encouraged me to give you ideas to be a faculty for the students as well in the past several times. But as a faculty member, I always, since I'm not in computer science area, sometimes I have this difficulty of figuring out a project that that is workable. It's like how technical it needs to be or how significant the problem needs to be. So I think, could you say more about this faculty involvement? I think that is at least a struggle I had before.
Yeah. And by the way, there's actually a wonderful structural design to this to help with the coordination necessary between coordinators and faculty for the curated project list. It's because the students have to pick it. So we don't force students into any projects. We usually have maybe I don't know, typically for 15 projects that might be selected, there might be 25 options. Um,
Mm-hmm.
And the benefit of that, I mean, there's two sides to it. One is, yeah, it's unfortunate. Only a few projects that are pitched to us are guaranteed to be selected. But the back and forth necessary makes it to where we polish it so students pick it. Um,
Mm-hmm.
and I mean, we're aware of what can fit into a summer, and I think that's the nice, role of any coordinator with any, whether it's a capstone or a thesis advisor, and I mean, we're we can go back and forth to fit it in the time. But I think an important piece to this is the students who pick the program are trusting us to give them options that they would like.
Mm.
And that's a lot of trust. And that's why we like to have more projects presented. And it also gives us a nice opportunity when we're talking to faculty to say, hey, we got to work with you. We got to make sure that this project is not just something that can fit in a summer, but something that the students will choose.
Mm. Right. So what are some of the favorite projects you've had that
Ah,
have been done by the students?
yeah. So, I mean, we've had a range. There were students who really didn't like the way that voting occurs with large groups of people, and they, had, all the different voting systems present, and created an application for that, and helped with group-based decision making. Very out there. Personal efforts that students found interesting. One of the primary projects I'm involved in was actually moved forward pretty significantly from, various prototypes from summer efforts. It's a gesture to speech recognition system so that people can move their hands and elicit speech. It's important because
Mm.
the rehab work that I'm involved in, there are some people who are unable to speak and unable to sign. Like they don't know sign language, or they don't have the ability to move their hands properly for sign language. And so this is a iterations of that system actually came from the summer effort. And I mean, but honestly, there's so many different projects. It's 9 different faculty. It's hard for me. I mean, I'm just picking the one I said because it's mine.
Right.
But,
That was my question. I do remember there was one time I saw a, a a woman sitting in a wheelchair. She had to use the text speech software in order to communicate, right?
Mhm.
That was a few years ago. I remember you brought her in to talk with the other students. That was quite touching.
Yeah, and it's wonderful. It's actually some of the students from that summer actually engaged with my lab afterwards, and that's led to some well, yeah, I mean some funding support, some efforts in that direction. But I mean, let me throw out one thing because I always think what's important here is sustaining a program like this because things change over the years, and we found that consistency is helpful, but important on sustaining it. Um, I would say anyone who wants to coordinate a program like this, have no shame in a significant portion of those projects being ones that you're interested in, ones that you're involved in. As a coordinator, we work, like those 9 faculty this past year. Those were 9 faculty among more than 9 that pitched projects, but 9 projects, the projects of 9 faculty were selected. So we do spend a significant amount of time coordinating projects that are not our own. But
Mm.
I think both Ting and myself have, probably 3 or 4 of the projects that we end up being co-authors on. And I think that I mean, I believe in altruism. I think it's helpful to actually, us to help each other, but also for one to spend an intensive summer effort, um, and careers are on the line, assistant professors trying to get tenure. I think that you also have to give yourself bit of a little bit of support by putting your own projects in there as well. So anyone who is
Right.
coordinating something like this, be sure to put your own projects in there too, and have no shame if it's not perfectly equal, because you're the one putting in the time and effort.
Well, a lot of times, that's what people do. They only work on their own projects, right? That's actually what faculty members are supposed to do.
Well, yeah.
And the fact that you are able to coordinate other faculty members' projects, that itself is amazing. Yeah. So I know I don't want to take over all the time, but I don't see other questions. I don't know if we have a very small group. please feel free to, the fact you're here, I'm assuming you're interested in this topic or interested in creating similar programs. So feel free to, ask questions or make a comment. Another question I have while we see if we have other questions is, with all this generative AI, I know you've had this model and, people can pitch in any topic, any project. But I wonder to what extent, the generative AI and this whole new wave of, the transformative AI technologies, to what extent that's affecting what you do.
So, I mean, I guess in terms of this summer program, I mean, it is interesting because we used to spend a significant amount of energy and effort curating pitches and curating posters. And one of the more challenging parts was actually polishing text. I mean, getting the fine details. And I have to say, as a coordinator, if you have like 18 projects, I mean, Ting and I would work together to split them up, but to go over the text, both in terms of documentation, some of them had paper write-ups, posters, and even going over project pitches. And some actually submitted fellowships that we actually had as part of the process, helping them polish fellowships, sometimes peer, sometimes with us. All of that's a lot of writing. I think what's wonderful, I mean, you have to make sure that this is all, this is all appropriate for the venues that things are being submitted to. But the ability to actually have these text generative systems, large language models, curate the text and give feedback, just wonderful. We haven't plugged that into our process yet, but I don't see why not. I mean, I have research students that are doing this. And again, we're careful with the places we submit that they allow, generative AI editing. And of course you always proof it, you don't just rely on it solely. But I think that it's going to be a game changer in terms of education because, I mean, a personalized writing tutor is essentially what we're talking about here. So I think that would save a lot of time. Actually, that would probably, with the way we run things, it would give us more time for moving the research forward rather than the polishing of the writing. And I think that's a big benefit for any program.
Right. Yeah, I love what you said about the personal tutoring, personal, just co-authoring almost, right? Like just getting feedback and I've seen how you work. You were even in, before we had, there were all these different technologies you were using that making the process more efficient. So looking at this big project you are coordinating, maybe there are things, AI technologies you can incorporate to help you save you some time there. Yeah, that's also an aspect I'm very interested. Just the human AI collaboration, teaming, and just make things more efficient. So the process more efficient. I'm very interested in that. So we can definitely talk more. So I don't see questions, and it's really late. I don't think we have to sort of wait till 1 hour. So I guess I can pause for a few seconds just to see if there are anything from the floor. If not, we can just wrap up here.
Okay. Yeah, that works.
Okay with it.
Yeah. And again, I just want to send out if anyone both here now or listening in a recording later, wants to implement this. There are a lot of details and I'm very happy. We presented this idea to at a relatively recent National Science Foundation PI meeting for research experience for undergrads for computer science. And everyone we talked to found some piece of it to incorporate. And I think that those meetings that bring people together for summer programs are just wonderful. It's wonderful to share. And happy to respond to any emails so that people don't have to reinvent the wheel on making one of these
Right.
larger programs work.
Right. Speaking of which, Mark, have you actually written, something about the process of the summer program? Because you've done it for so many years, you've had a lot of, very good pedagogical approaches embedded in the program, not only in the process, but in actually really several layers to make it work. The faculty are getting, almost like I'm thinking about myself, right? I haven't been able to come up with something but I've always been thinking, wow, it would be so wonderful. You have all these students here all the way from different age groups who basically, they are there, they want to do the work, right? They are very curious, they're very excited about solving the problem. So if, as a faculty member, a lot of times, especially in education, we don't have those resources. And so it would be so wonderful to have this group of students and coordinator who have expertise to help solve this problem. And you have this, very intensive mentoring process. So it would probably be nice if you haven't done that to put it down, write it, get it published somewhere. And that would be a framework that can help other people.
Oh, I think, yeah, that sounds like, yeah, I'd like to put that
Mm-hmm.
together. Because yeah,
Right.
it's been a decade now, um,
Mm-hmm.
and I mean, just along these lines, one of the things about being associate chair for our graduate studies program at UNT, 2,800 graduate students, I mean, 1,700 undergraduates, so it's like 4,500 um, students, and in computer science and engineering, they work on projects. What a shame that in some classes, although we always try to get them to brainstorm, think about it ahead of time, I mean, there's a lot of interesting techniques that are being used that aren't being directed, that could be directed to so many different things across the university. And I mean, Ting and I here, we have this little piece of what we can do personally. We have, the spark of something we'd want to do beyond the two of us. And I mean, that's part of the reason why we reached out to you and to this program to be able to talk about it. But I think that there's some kindling, like there's, you know, a lot of effort, these, large computing AI oriented programs, hungry for quality projects, and basically entire universities that are re-gearing themselves around AI. And I think that we're just at the first stages of trying to make this work, and having a permanent presence,
Mm-hmm.
at least with the two coordinators involved. Um, I think part of what I'd like to do in formally putting down our process is just to see what could go beyond the two of us if we were to able to get support for more. Because like I said, like there's so much opportunity. We get more projects from colleagues than we can have students work on. We get more student interest than we can engage. Our 60 students are actually selected among 140 who applied last time. So, and
Right.
so
So,
it's something that can grow.
mm-hmm. Yeah, there are just a lot of disconnections, right? People who want to have authentic problems to solve, and they don't have authentic problems, and people who have problems, but they don't know where to go to get resources to solve the problems. So making those connections, and also, of course, the process of making it work. And I remember actually, again, a few years ago, you were trying to create a system where the projects that students did, right, could be somehow be built on by new students rather than, there are a lot of projects students created or wrote. And then once the semester is over and they are done, they're gone. It's basically wasted. There are a lot of wasted effort there. And you are trying to see whether those could be accumulated and be searchable so that the next students, group of students, could look at those projects and build on those projects. So I don't know if you did more of that. It just when you were talking, it just reminded me of that.
So we did move forward, actually 2 summers of effort on building a tool like that, because that is one of the pieces that we would need if we wanted to expand it beyond the two of us reliably. I mean, one of the things to keep in mind is, I mean, we're not just talking about GitHub. Like, a lot of the students who want to just do a project, they want to write their code, release it, and they think it's off into the wild. It'll become its own creature, and they just hope. But along those lines, what we do personally with the projects we're involved with now, we curate them. We make sure there's continuity. We check what the status is with the advisors to see if other students or if it's time to recruit, to see if it's dormant, to see if people have checked out of it somewhat. All of that takes a lot of energy. So one thing I would say to the program, to the description of a system that you're talking about here, is there's some people power involved, and that has to be part of the build. You need people to actually interact with the individuals who submit the projects, who periodically check on the status, who ask students who try to engage with it, are there any issues with the engagement? Maybe the project itself doesn't work and needs to be retuned. All of that is very effortful, but we do that, a microcosm of it, with these 60 students and these 9 faculty. And so there's certain approaches that basically in a sense, maxed us out. Like 60 students, 9 faculty that we coordinate with is our max for the summer, and still have a, summer where you take a vacation. But I think that there's potential, maybe with generative AI, maybe with, a system that, we're talking about here, where we could engage people more coherently, more consistently, and grow it a little bit more. So I'd love to chat with anyone who, if I can help with just some advice on what we've done. And if anyone's interested in sort of next level efforts, like what Lynn was just talking about, I think that there's a lot of potential. I'm so happy to talk to anyone.
Excellent. I think we can just wrap up here. Thank you, everyone, for attending the session, for staying with us. I hope the session is useful for you. And please reach out to Mark and to me if we can be of any help, if you're interested in any of the ideas talked about here. Thank you very much. Have a good night or have a good afternoon.
Okay.
Bye-bye now.
Bye-bye, everyone.
Bye.